Welcome everybody to the Mansfield Buzz and our new Mansfield Buzz introduction song.
Welcome to Mansfield Buzz, Jordan Hurdy in the mix, spotlighting local stories, every episode's a fix, unearthing unique gems, what makes them shine. Tune in, get ready, we're diving into their grind. With Jordan's questions, we reveal what's at the core. Hurdy's tech wizardry, bringing stories to the fore. Together we create, star showcasing what's unique. Mansfield Buzz, where content creation sleek. Calling all business owners and customers to the scene. Discover authentic gems, find the best you've ever seen. Meet the faces behind each unique space. Trust in their stories, find community in this place.
And it's going to end abruptly as it always does. So that's really cool, Jordan. That's really cool. Thank you very much. Hey, everybody, thank you for joining us on the Mansfield Buzz. We're live on YouTube and Facebook today. I had a problem getting the LinkedIn stream set up, Jordan, not on our end, but on their end. So they were having some technical issues. So we'll put a copy back up there, guys, on the on-demand after it's over. But we welcome to the Mansfield Buzz. We are Jordan on show. Well, she may not know this. It's okay. I'm going to say it. Marron. How'd I do?
It was close enough. Marron.
Okay. Well, she is our immigration attorney at law, and she's going to be talking to us today, which I'm awesomely looking forward to because there's just lots of stuff going on in the world, and she's going to set us straight with how she works with folks, and I just love this. So it's really cool, guys. If you do want to chat with us, we will. I'll show you what it looks like. If you put comments up, we'll be sure to put the questions up here if you have any, but say hi to us and make sure if you're on the YouTube stream, let me go back over here to these banners, pull this up. We are live on YouTube. This is our address. If you hadn't subscribed, please do so. But what's the most important thing, Jordan? Go down and hit that like button underneath and hit that thumbs and let us know you're there. But number one, hit that for us. And that's even on the on-demand because every bit of that helps with how Google looks at content being relative on their channel. We are booked all the way through April now, Jordan. And we're looking into May. So if you want to be a guest on the Mansfield Buzz, we ask you to email me direct at my business address at hurdy@hurdyburke.com. Just put it in the subject line, Mansfield Buzz. I'll know exactly what you're asking, and I'll send you all the details, how you can be on our live show. And then, Jordan, we're still averaging, we're still averaging around 2.7 thousand views per 28 days, and we're averaging close to 45 to 50 hours of watch time. So we're really happy with the progress of the channel. And I always say this to our guests, we're local. Yes, we're on YouTube, but we keep this local. So the fact that we have almost 150 subscribers in the first year is really good because these are all local folks and we're still building it. And we're relying on a lot of our guests to help build the traffic by sharing the show and sharing some of the shorts we create them. But with that said, we have a sponsor. So let me jump back up here. We're going to get into our icebreaker. So hang on a second. I got to find it in the deal. Here we go. We'll be right back. All right, everybody. So our sponsor is libertytaxdefenders.com. Jordan, you know what? I'm going to put this up and present it, but I'm not going to read it for a change. I'm just going to ad-lib it because they are our sponsors, exclusive sponsors, and they are helping us keep the lights on the studio and help us where we can do all the editing and get stuff back up and interview these great business clients we have. But they are a tax resolution firm. As people don't know this, and Brad didn't put this in there, but Brad was instrumental in writing a lot of the code directly for the IRS with his 15-year career. So when it comes to having a tax advocate on your side, or if you get a letter, everybody knows about those famous letters. If you get one of those, do me a favor. Don't call them direct. Call these guys. Go visit them at libertytaxdefenders.com. They've saved close to $1 million, and I keep trying to change that, Jordan, to $2 million. and assess taxes and penalties for clients. They save that for them. So if you need help navigating taxes and you need help, they also do CPA services now. I'm clapping. Okay. So go check out libertytaxdefenders.com. Brad and Wade and Fred, thank you for being a sponsor of our great Mansfield Buzz show. And now Jordan gets, one other thing, Jordan.
Yes.
Our icebreaker. I like that we do this with our guests too, but because of the week and because of what happened down in, I didn't get a chance to really dig into it. So I just brought one up today. So last weekend in Mansfield, we had the pickle parade. And I never asked. I just assumed because it's St. Patty's and all that stuff that it's green, that it has more to do with that. Well, here's the surprising icebreaker. Did you know that in 2013, Mansfield was deemed the pickle capital of Texas based on some great pickles that are made here? So who knew, right? So now you know why they call it the pickle parade. Just thought I'd throw that at you. Okay.
You know what I wonder though? How come they didn't pass out pickles?
I'm not going to even try to guess at that answer, Jordan. That's kind of one of those you can't really answer. You get in trouble if you do.
It was so hot, like a pickle would have been nice,
Yeah,
salty and fresh. I'd like to suggest that next time. It is the pickle capital, right? Let's get some pickles.
I mean, we should probably come up with some sort of pickle thing for the show. When we're doing in between questions or something, we should show a pickle jump up or something. Anyhow, we'll talk about it. So we've got a great guest today, and I'm excited because I know, and I'm just going to say this out loud. I know there's controversial stuff there's a lot going on politically, and I get all that, but there are real laws that she helps represent folks that are going through this process. And I think it's just as important to see the good side of this as what we've seen in the past or hearing politically. So Jordan always asks the questions because he's always more laid back than me. So just so you know, I'm looking forward to this conversation. Thanks for being our guest. And Jordan, just take it from here.
Well, thank you. And Marron, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
First thing I was going to ask you, well, I mean, I want to get into what brought you, down this path. But one of the things that I think is interesting, especially with anybody that goes into the law space, is, well, first of all, I mean, the schooling you have to go through is,
oh my God,
it's intense. And then you wanted to go into immigration law. So first, tell me, how did you make that decision? Be like, you know what, I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to enroll into this grueling marathon of schooling so I can do this.
Yeah, great question. So for law school, generally you do the 4 years of undergrad, and then you do generally 3 years of law school before you go and take the bar exam and then become an attorney. But immigration law has always been very close to my heart. My parents came to the United States as refugees of Eritrea. It was during a time where there was a war in their country. And so after they came to the United States as refugees, so I was born here in the area in Fort Worth, Texas, born and raised. And it's just something that has always been close to my heart as the child of immigrants, specifically as a child of refugees. It led to my interest in supporting immigrants in the United States. So I've kind of dedicated my career towards it. So I've done this for about 15 years. But really, it's just my love for people like my family members.
That's super cool. So then from a very early age, you knew you were going to go down this route.
For the most part, I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer. It was either going to be international human rights law or just immigration. And I kind of felt like immigration was essentially the way of putting all that together and living in the United States. So awesome. For a while.
Good.
That's awesome. So that really does, that's really cool. I'm surprised that it's rare to find somebody who has such a clear cut path from such a early stage. But I mean, your experience through it is not everybody's, right? Like coming in here and your parents being refugees from a war, right? Like that's next level.
Yeah.
So you went through, well, you can tell me a little bit, how was getting through the school portion of it?
Honestly, law school for most isn't the most fun. It's a lot of reading, lots and lots of reading, lots of like just sitting in front of books and researching and learning. Undergrad, I would say, was quite easy for me. Law school, not as easy, but lots of work. You're learning lots. And then you have the bar exam, which is a whole other thing that is also not maybe that fun. But I appreciate all the things that I've learned from it. I actually think a lot of the writing skills I've gained from it have been amazing. So I've written my own book. I'm an author as well. I've written, Cactus Fruit, a book of poem. Let me see if it's in the background here.
Here it is.
Yeah, and we're going to put a link up for you while she's talking about it. So that's really cool.
So
It's in the description.
Yep.
Yeah, it's being an attorney, because I do lots of like legal writing and briefs, asylum briefs to the Board of Immigration Appeals. So I've kind of coupled my creative skills with my analytical skills, and I feel like just because I'm an attorney doesn't mean that that's all I have to be, right? My job doesn't define who I am. I'm also a mother, I'm a wife, I'm an author, I'm an artist. I love painting. So I just love the options that it gave me.
Cool.
I would say.
You just get cooler by the second, dude. That is awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
That is cool. And and it's one thing that it's really cool because attorneys have such a interesting relationship with the written word, right? Like you can use it to express yourself, but you use it also like the way you can just like use it to build a contract that just, I don't know, like to you words are like a solid thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, diction is very important. Sometimes I realized as an attorney, I started to realize as a whole, a lot of people tend not to answer the question that is asked. So it's almost human nature. It's like, I can ask you something. If it's something that Hurdy makes you uncomfortable, or Jordan, you don't know the answer to, whatever the case may be, you'll start to realize like, oh, they didn't answer the question that I have.
My question.
Yeah, but it's just so common, and you just focus on the diction, the words that people use, why they use them. But yeah, just the English language and understanding why people use the words is equally as important as what they're saying.
Yeah. I can imagine, and I'm just going to throw this in, because we speak English, we don't realize how difficult some of the language is, correct? I mean, you can say something that means totally something different to somebody else, right? So yeah, and I guess that's true for all, but it seems like our language is really weird. That's just saying it. All right. Yeah. So hey, I want to go back real quick since you held your book up. Yeah. Can you give us a little background on what made you write that book? I'm always curious when people have time to write a book, right? I mean, especially if it's been around for a couple of years. Could you kind of tell us how you got interested in writing the book? And of course, we're going to put a link for people to go purchase it after the show in the description. But yeah, when did you find time, and what got you thinking about writing a book?
Yeah, thank you for your question. I mean, honestly, I think everybody wants to write a book, right? Everyone has something important to say, whether it's a pamphlet that they want to write or a magazine, whatever the case. I mean, there's always something to say. It's just a matter of like, do we take the time to write it down or to go that route? I started writing it during COVID. It was a hard time for me and my family, stuck in the house with 4 kids, 4 young children. Well, at that time it was 3, but
wow.
I was pregnant. I was very pregnant with one of them. And then he was born during COVID. And ever since I've had a 4th child, but it was just difficult for me. We were here in Mansfield, and I felt like it was kind of my therapy to myself, and it's poem. So it's probably not what most people are thinking an attorney would write. But I've always loved poetry since I was a teenager. It was kind of my way of just being creative and expressing my feelings. So I wrote poetry about what I was going through. So the topics in there are focused mostly on my life as a wife and a mother and child of immigrants. And it's just something that I think I kind of needed. I self-published it. So I went through the whole process of doing it on my own because I didn't want anything to hold me back. I'm working on my second book now, and it's focused on immigrant grandmothers and their stories. I may self-publish it. I'm not sure if I'm going to go the other route, but now it's not so much a need to self-publish because I'm okay with it potentially taking a little bit more time.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I love background stories to what gets people motivated to write something, and the poems are cool. So I'm going to be looking forward to checking that out, Jordan, myself.
I hope you read it.
I'm going to buy a copy. What the heck? I'm going to go on and support you through Amazon. So,
and I can't believe it's not law related. You know, that's super cool.
Yeah, so far we found out she's an artist. She writes poems. She's an attorney. She keeps adding a thing every time we ask a question.
Yeah, before we know, we're gonna find out she's like a martial artist, like
or something.
Or something.
No,
unfortunately not.
All right.
So let's go a little bit back into your path, right? So you found law, and how long have you been practicing for?
15 years now.
Wow. Okay. So what can you tell us about your experiences? I mean, 15 years, you've had to see quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of those years I've been practicing immigration law. But when I came out of law school, I started as a Florida attorney. I went to school in Florida as well. But I was a foreclosure attorney for a while, for about a year. And then,
I told you she was going to add something.
I mean, it's just 1 year. It was 1 year.
It only took 1 year, huh?
Yeah, I mean, but keep in mind, it was during a time where that was a big thing too.
Sure.
That was 2009-ish.
Yep.
So in Florida, South Florida. So, but then I realized immigration is really what I wanted to do. So I moved to Houston at the time and practiced immigration law with a firm there, and then went on my own in 2011. Ever since, most of what I've done, like I served as an asylum officer with USCIS, and I'm also a former immigration services officer and a former federal trial attorney. But all of that experience has made me a better attorney and a better advocate because I'm able to see both sides. Sometimes when you're just an advocate, you just think of it like, I presented this argument and it was the best argument. I don't understand why you're not getting it. But when you work for the government and then you come, it just makes me a better advocate, I think.
I bet.
That experience.
Because the fact that you can be experienced on one side of the fence and be experienced on the other side of the fence and bring those two together, what a nice representation for one of your clients. Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Help them down the paper trail. That's cool.
Yeah, and the understanding the perspective, right? Because working on the government side, you get to see it more as it's not single cases; it's more of a volume problem. Like it's not. You don't think of individuals as more like the masses. You go to the now you go to the other side. You're representing individual people
and policies.
Mm-hmm. So you're getting to just kind of get a perspective on the two of them, which I think, that's awesome. That is a really cool advantage.
Yeah. And I learned a lot. I learned so much. And I think it's made me a better attorney, but it also helped me represent my clients better because I think sometimes, and just think of any argument, right? You argue and there's three sides to a story. You got your side, the other side, and the actual truth, whatever that is. Yeah. And so it's somewhere in the middle a lot of times. And so it's important to know, like, here are the things that aren't as strong in your case. Here are the things we need to work on. Here are the things we need to explain. So that's always really important.
That's
agreed.
And I'm surprised you're allowed. Honestly, I'm surprised you're allowed to do that. You can play both sides. That you could go play both sides.
Oh, why not? I mean, I'm an officer of the court, right? When you're an attorney, at the end of the day, my job is to implement the law, and whatever the law is, I advocate within that realm. So whether it's on the government side or on the attorney side, representing immigrants, I mean, it's always, those are our guidelines. Like, that's what we're
Right.
going to do, and that's what we have to do.
Right. I love it.
That's cool.
Perfect.
I still think that is such a competitive advantage.
Yeah. I'm sure my clients, they love it. And like I said, it has made me a better attorney for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine so. And then dealing, well, I mean, like with that kind of a range, what are the cases that you mostly handle, or the ones that you see mostly?
Yeah, great question. So within immigration law, I think sometimes, forget immigration, sometimes you hear someone's an attorney and you're like, oh, I'm just going to ask you an estate planning question because you're an attorney, you should know it, right? Or I'm going to ask you a family law question. And I'm like, I don't, you need to talk to a
That happens
family
to
law
Yeah.
attorney.
like, oh, you know
Yeah.
marketing, right? So like, can you tell me this about a website? I'm like,
Yeah, I'm like, that's not what I do. Yeah. So even within immigration, though, there's so many areas. I see it as like a big umbrella, and there's so many different areas underneath that umbrella. So the two main types of immigration law that I do are Marrigration, which is trademarked, by the way. So no one
Right.
else can use that, Marrigration. And it's
Marrigration.
marriage-based immigration. So anyone trying to bring someone like a fiance or a spouse is here and you're trying to apply for them, or naturalization based on being married to a U.S. citizen. Another example is like the Violence Against Women's Act, VAWA, where you're saying potentially that your spouse has abused you and you're looking to gain a green card based on that. Another aspect is sometimes you get a 2-year green card instead of a 10-year green card. And so you have to remove those conditions. So there's lots of areas within Marrigration, and it's trademarked. And then I also
I love that.
Yeah, it's trademarked. So in case someone's trying to use it, remember it's trademarked. And asylum. Asylum is just essentially when someone enters the United States, they have generally a year to apply for asylum. So it could be whether it's at the border or they've already entered and they're going through the asylum process. So it could be with the asylum office, it could be an immigration court, or they've lost in immigration court, and I help with the asylum briefs, the appeals.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Wow. Okay. In generally speaking, when you talk about immigration, it's a big umbrella and then it breaks into different ones. How many more are they?
Another big one is employment-based immigration. So
Yeah.
someone trying to come through work, for example, whether it's an H-1B, we do handle some of those cases, but it's just on a case-by-case basis. In fact, I've handled many of those cases, but the main areas that we do are Marrigration and asylum.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes total sense. That seems like that would be a pretty big bulk of it, right? So good.
Yeah.
Asylum taking you, like, I keep seeing that little, like, the dots connecting as you go.
Yeah. And I like using the experience that I have to help my clients, to advocate for my clients as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think that's that's important, whenever you're working with somebody that gets your situation, it's not foreign to you, like you've lived through some of that yourself. So you know what it's like, and probably a lot of the psychology behind it too, right? Because you can recognize it on your parents and you can just kind of empathize with it.
Yeah, and being the child of immigrants, it's a unique experience within itself. I think people think of immigration and they just think of the immigrants, right? But these immigrants, I mean, like I said, I was born and raised here in Fort Worth, Texas. It's a unique experience because, my parents are immigrants. However, all I've known is Texas, and then living in Florida, and then back to Texas. So
Right.
it's a unique experience being the child of immigrants.
Mhm. And typically, a lot of the times is the work ethic that you see from your parents. Just I know a lot of immigrants have like an incredible work ethic. Just coming in and see it as a genuine opportunity, and they will just really put in the effort. And it's really cool to grow up and see your parents putting that level of dedication behind what they're doing.
Oh yeah, my mom education is so important to her. So she throughout raising me, like, education was something that she always talked about. But she lived it as well. She came initially only had a up to a certain grade. I think it was 7th or 8th grade of education, but she fought hard to go to a great boarding school when they were living in Sudan. So she came here, got her GED in Fort Worth, and then went on to get her associate's degree in TC. Back then it was called TCJC. Now
Right.
it's TCC. And then she worked in MHMR, mental health. And then she went on to get her bachelor's degree from UTA in microbiology. And through that process, she was raising me and made sure that I got a great education. So, even though we weren't the richest, she noticed that, my daughter's smart and got me a great scholarship to go to Trinity Valley here in Fort Worth, Texas. I don't know if you've heard of
Awesome.
that school, but education was just very important to her. And she imposed the importance of education. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, no one could really take away your brains and what you've learned.
That's right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Wow, that's super super cool and empowering. That's awesome.
Yeah, my mom is awesome.
Well, we should definitely thank her. That's a great contribution and set you on a great path, and now you get to pay it forward, which is awesome. And on that note, what would you say you like the most about your job?
Yeah, honestly, what I like to talk when I talk about my firm, the two main key core values are integrity and excellence. So if you are a paralegal, a legal assistant, a receptionist, everybody, all the attorney, anyone who works with us, they know excellence and integrity are the key core values to my firm. But what I love is when we're able to use that to change people's lives. Stabilizing families is essentially our goal, and doing Marrigration and asylum. So whenever you're able to bring a family member, whether it's a child or a spouse that they've been living apart, or it could be a family member who initially comes here, even if it's to start a family, they've escaped a difficult situation and now they're about to raise and start new families. Stabilizing families is something that honestly brings me joy. And as a mother and hearing their stories and what they've gone through, they give me hope for my kids and our futures and all the great things to come.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Man, how often do you cry at work?
Cry? I mean, honestly, the truth is after a while, and you don't become desensitized. I'm not saying I'm desensitized towards it, but I use that instead of crying about something that someone's been through, I kind of use that as fuel to
Right,
just do a better
motivation.
job.
Yeah.
And I've done it for quite a while now, to where it's, what, I'm hearing what you've gone through. Let's figure out a way to help.
Yeah. Good.
Oh, I would be a ball of tears every time you get the family together. You're like, yes, and I just feel like, I'm sorry, like it's just coming out.
Yeah, I mean, and those are good moments too. If there are tears, they're happy tears. So.
Yeah, I mean that's what we want, and that's what you guys are trying to do, which is it's awesome. I hadn't really internalized just how powerful, seeing the case to completion is, because that's stabilizing the families. I hadn't thought about it like that, and that's beautiful.
And think about the time she spends with these folks, so she gets to know them fairly well too, not only from the representative side, but from the friendship or whatever forms there, the bonding part. And if something doesn't work out right, there's probably a lot of distress and what could I have done better? And I can see where that motivates you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely motivating.
Relationships become part of the gig, I'm pretty sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's so much level of trust that your clients are having on you they're literally putting their family's future in your hands. So that is a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, 100%.
And let's get a little bit into let's dive into the details a little bit, because I don't think people know just what all it takes. All right. So when a person immigrates to the US, there's like certain processes you got to go through, but I don't think the layman person actually understands. It's just more like, well, you just kind of do it. Like, do you fill a form? I think that's what most people think.
Depends.
How does somebody actually like legally immigrate to the U.S.?
Yeah, honestly, there are numerous ways, right? There are different visas that are available, different family-based options. But something that I notice in speaking with someone whenever they bring up immigration, they're like, "Oh yeah, they just apply for citizenship." And I think one thing that people don't understand is that generally, someone could be coming here temporarily, which is just saying, "I'm coming here temporarily. I plan on going back to my country." But usually, the first goal, if they're trying to permanently reside in the United States, is to become a permanent resident, a lawful permanent resident, an LPR, or what most people know as getting a green card,
Right.
right? And then after having a green card for a certain amount of time, whether it be 3 years or 5 years, then you apply for naturalization to become a U.S. citizen. So it's a very long process. Generally.
Right.
Yeah. And not only that, but there's so many different kind of aspects. You have the family-based aspect. So you have a family member applying for you, or it could be employment-based, like we've discussed. It could also be asylum. You also have diversity visas, and then many temporary visas. You could come as a visitor, you can come as a student and then go back. You can come as a religious worker. There are just so many. There are a vast number of different options.
Okay. But the path to naturalization typically is become a permanent
A green
resident?
card holder is what most people
I
get.
know it as a green card. I didn't actually know the correct term.
A lawful permanent resident.
Okay. So that is like the first step into, just doing everything the way you're supposed to. And then after 3 to 5 years, then you can apply to become an actual citizen.
Yes. And there are requirements to that, right? So the 3 years is saying if you're married to a U.S. citizen and you're living in marital union, then you can apply a little earlier. But generally it's 5 years. But so when most people are talking about permanently residing, they're referring to getting a green card, becoming a lawful permanent resident. So it could be that they're here as an F1 student, for example, and then they've married a U.S. citizen. So they're seeking a green card based on that. Right. And then eventually will become a U.S. citizen if they apply and if they're eligible.
What's an F1 student?
An F1, it's essentially coming here temporarily as a student with the intentions of going back to your country. So you're basically coming here to study a specific field. Okay. But then sometimes, things change. Like I said, maybe you get married. Maybe it becomes dangerous to go back to your country. So you have to apply for asylum. So there are different routes that could be available.
Gotcha.
Sometimes you get a job. I know my brother's wife got a job coming out of her master's or PhD actually. And that was kind of like the path that took that. That's so you mentioned, and I like that you brought it into marriage-based immigration, which is, what's the trademark phrase?
Marrigration, yes.
Marrigration.
That's pretty cool.
Path to marrigration. What is it like when it's with asylum?
So asylum is essentially you're within the United States and you're saying that I fear returning to my country on account of my race, religion, nationality, my political opinion, or being a member of a particular social group. So those are 5 enumerated categories. So you're explaining to the officer or to the judge that these are the reasons that I fear returning to my country. And so I like bringing this up to explain that there are specific policies in place that relate to applying for asylum and the things that need to be met in order for you to become an asylee. Right. So you generally have to apply within a year of arrival. There are exceptions to that. Like, let's say you've been here for 3 years and then your country changed and it's suddenly dangerous for you. So there's a change country condition, for example, then you can say, well, this is the reason that I didn't apply within the year. Gotcha. If you're applying within the year, sometimes depending on how you entered, you'll be applying to the asylum office. If that asylum officer decides not to grant it, they might refer it to immigration court. So then you're in deportation proceedings. So you have another chance to explain it to the judge. And if the judge denies it, then you could potentially appeal that case.
Right.
Okay. And when you're given asylum, is that also like the equivalent of getting your permanent residence, or is that the next step?
Yeah, great question. So within a year of applying for of being granted asylum, that's when you can apply to get your green card.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And so, does a green card always mean that now you're eligible to work and you can start working, earning money, and paying taxes?
Yeah, so you could potentially do that even before a green card. So, and I say that because while you're applying for certain applications, for example, let's say you're applying for asylum, that process can take a while. Sometimes it's very quick. Sometimes it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. During that process, you can apply for work authorization. So if you have that work authorization, you can use that and you have the right to work and whatnot. But
Right.
a green card is one way of showing, because a green card basically says you're a permanent resident in the United States.
I'm
So
here.
that is
It's good.
definitely,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a way to work and whatnot. But there are also other ways where you might not have a green card and you're still able to work.
Okay,
Right.
that's cool. I didn't know that. Well, thank you. That was a masterclass on immigration. I didn't know any of that, really. It's
See, Jordan, the cool thing about this is we're learning what the real law policies and how things and what she hasn't described it. There's, like she was mentioning, there's things that have to be done in order for people to get to a certain level too, which is so, there's a lot of steps, but these are laws, so, and policy. So she's working within the law, which is awesome. And I love that. I didn't know the difference between. So, a question for you that I don't want to make it a bit controversial. I just want to ask. So, the masses that were coming across the borders, were they considered asylum and they're going to have to report back to somebody like you or the courts systems? Is that what they were granted when they came across the border? Do you know?
So whenever you're coming at the border, essentially you're dealing with the officer there and you're explaining that I don't want to go back to my country
Gotcha.
because I fear persecution. So you're kind of going through the very initial stages of asking for asylum.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
so at that stage, like for example, as an asylum officer is one who might be doing credible fear interviews. I'm just giving an example. And they're
Right.
kind of just making sure that you kind of meet the requirements to even apply for asylum.
Gotcha.
But once they come in, they might get a notice to appear, basically saying, now you have to present this to an immigration judge and explain your case in detail. Why do you fear persecution? It's not enough to just say my country's dangerous. You have to explain that I fear persecution, or I have a well-founded fear of future persecution on account of my race, religion,
Gotcha.
nationality, PSG, or political
Or
opinion.
whatever those reasons are. Gotcha.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Cool.
And what would you say are some of the trends that you're seeing in immigration right now?
Yeah, great question. So
Yeah.
just to make it very broad and straightforward. So with each administration, although there are laws, right, and policies can be interpreted in different ways. And there are different ways that the administration could impose those policies. So what we're finding now is that it's becoming a bit more difficult to obtain certain benefits. The process is, how do I put it? The process is a little bit more difficult. However, I mean, the policies and the laws are still the same. It's just the implementation that may vary. And the executive orders may vary to where something that was previously allowed might be suspended, for example, like the refugee. There are certain laws that have been suspended, for example. There might be an increase in detentions or things like that. So there are many different changes with each administration.
Right. Makes sense.
But as a whole, the process to gain the naturalization, that hasn't changed. It's just essentially it's gotten more difficult, but you're still following the same path.
You're still following the same path, but some of the pathways have
to get
been
there are
potentially
been
suspended. When I say more difficult, it could be suspended. It could be that option is no longer an option. So that's why it's really important to speak with an immigration attorney. I mean, the truth is some of these applications and petitions, people can do it on their own, and they have successfully done it on their own. So it's not required, right? But in speaking with an immigration attorney, you might learn that, this is no longer working that way, or what you thought was extremely straightforward is no longer straightforward. So
Right.
I highly recommend scheduling a consultation with my office or just an experienced immigration attorney that can explain your case.
Yeah.
It's,
And
it's
so
complicated procedures, and especially with all the changes happening, obviously you're up to date on everything that is happening, and your average person doesn't know that. And then you could throw on top of that language barriers, which can make it even more difficult to understand.
and I would imagine with the different administrations and the politics involved, you probably go through a ton of having to catch up on what is being sent down the gauntlet today. What's
Yeah.
going to look like a month from now? What's this going to look like 2 years from now? Because you've got people that you're already probably working with that just may have changed their status a little bit, and you have to kind of back up and go back through another angle, right? So you're being challenged one way or the
Yeah.
other.
100%. What Hurdy said.
It doesn't matter which one it is. You're
Yeah.
still being challenged.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
And for people watching, especially because you're the expert on this field, where do you think is where people that are going at it alone typically make a mistake? When is what's the first stone they're going to trip on?
It less so than saying it's a stone. I would say it's more of like a personal thing, because most of the time where someone has tried to do it on their own, the two things that I see is a person who thinks I'm super smart, right? I'm a doctor, I'm a this, and so I can do this. I mean, this is easy. I just fill out the application. So they feel like they're so smart that they can do it. But it's not to discount their intellect. It's just to say that you're so smart, but you are not maybe smart in this field, and understanding your limitations as a human being, right? Like, I know immigration law, but I am not going to say that I'm just so smart to where I feel comfortable doing a different type a case that is outside of immigration. And sometimes just knowing your limitations and knowing when you're it's out of your league, right?
Yeah.
Another one is a lot of people sometimes go to like a friend or a family member or a notary who says, oh yeah, I've done this before. They're not lawyers and they don't really know what they're doing. And so someone else is helping them with the application, and at the end, because they're trying to save money, but they'll probably end up coming to me later with a bigger problem because something was done incorrectly or they didn't know the law.
That makes total, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's you always got to seek the experts, right? Like most of us are smart enough to figure anything out, but we cannot figure everything out, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta pick your battles and use your time wisely.
Yeah.
Do you think sometimes there is a financial concern, and maybe that's why people are wanting to go the DIY route?
Yeah, I mean, attorneys, we can probably be over a budget of what they were expecting to spend on an application, right? But I always say that it's a lot more expensive to be in removal proceedings, right? It's going to be a lot more. I mean, it's going to be X amount to hire me to file a Marrigration case, but it's going to be way higher if, because you did that incorrectly, now you're in deportation proceedings, now you're in court, and now you're potentially removable because you didn't do it the right way to begin with.
Right. Yeah. So I think we know the answer.
Yeah.
Hire her.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And if you have the means, it's honestly the prudent thing to do. It's the same thing with, you're seeing a doctor or anybody, like anything that could be pivotal to your quality of life. Like, go for an expert, like you just put it right there. You're removable. Like, you could potentially be taken out and your life would change drastically. So
100%.
that's
Do you have some proud moments since you've been doing this for 15 years where you've actually, and I know you have, taken some folks through all the way to citizenship and got to see them come from where they were at to citizenship in the US?
Oh yes, many. And
And I
and
bet
just
that's pretty cool.
it is. I mean, it's one of the greatest feelings when you have someone, screaming on the phone or in person, just like,
Yeah.
I'm so happy. It's an honor. It's an
Yeah.
honor.
I can imagine that's a great feather in your cap for your belief in what you do too. Yeah.
yeah. I know what I've seen is the peace of mind it's incredible. Once they're everything is official, they're citizens now, and there's just this peace that comes through that is I mean it's really you can't really I mean unless you're in that situation it's really hard to understand, but it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
Hey, since you've
100%.
been doing this is a question I've always wanted to ask an immigration attorney, and I'm glad I finally met one that's an expert. Are other countries near as gracious as we are about immigration?
Um, I would say if I had to pick a country, Canada is
Okay,
quite gracious, but really each country kind of varies on their immigration laws.
okay,
And so as a US based immigration attorney, I can't really ever give advice on other countries'
sure,
immigration laws, but there are times where people decide, you know what, they're living in another country, they can't figure out a route within the United States, so they might decide to immigrate somewhere else.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just figure I don't know how to ask it, so I was just wondering
Yeah,
if
no.
there's stricter policies. So I'm sure there are for certain countries, right? And because people are sovereign and they have nations and they have to take care of themselves. So I was just wondering if other countries, because we seem to be a very gracious country. Um, so all right, just thought I'd ask.
No, thank you for asking.
Now I'm thinking about those countries that let you go over there so you just stash your money. It's like, yeah, they're probably pretty friendly. If you're
Hey,
I mean,
if
there
you're
are
hush,
many countries,
Jordan,
and
hush.
there are so many different, and people don't realize that their immigration laws are probably as unique and vast as ours. The
Right.
same way that ours change with administration, theirs are probably changing on a
That
regular basis as well.
that's kind of what I was asking. Was they go through similar things? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was going to ask you to backtrack a little bit. We're talking about people that might have a financial constraint with this. Do you have any free talks or advice places where you can, sort of like
Yeah.
get people in the right direction?
Yeah, I want to start by saying I do lots of videos, and if anyone has Googled
Yes, she
me or looked
does.
me up,
Yeah. Yes, she does. I've
yes,
seen
Something
that.
it's
well.
Yeah.
a lot of free
She does
content.
tons. She does tons.
Yeah, on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. But there's really probably, if you have a question on Marrigration or asylum, I probably have made or will be making a video on it on my YouTube or TikTok page. And it's
And
Marron Immigration Lawyer. On YouTube, it's Law Office of Marron Gebremeskel. But yeah, there's lots of free content. So that's like a great place to start. I'm also available for free talks, and I've done many free talks in the community explaining like the process and the eligibility requirements for naturalization or just a brief immigration overview. I may be doing one soon with the Mansfield Public Library. But yeah, if there's an organization that you're with who would like more information, I'd love to help with a free talk on that.
yeah, and I would love for you after we get done today to email me your URL to your YouTube channel because I
Okay.
definitely want to put it in your description box and get people to go subscribe and see your stuff. It's really good. She does a good job with video, just so y'all know.
Thank you.
She's on the
Kudos.
talking game.
She's good on camera.
She
I'll
gets an
say
A
that.
plus.
Thank you. That means a
And-
lot coming from you guys.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
dude, you're crushing it. You're doing great.
you are. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Thanks.
And now my next question for you is for the people that are listening and they're like, oh man, I better jump on it right away. What is the process for hiring an immigration attorney? And it's specifically for working with you.
Yeah, each attorney is different, but with my firm, the starting place is booking a consultation because that gives me 30 minutes to kind of focus on your case. What I hear a lot is I have a quick question, and that is usually my indication that this question is not quick. This is actually very long question. So, okay, how long? Probably about 30 minutes, because each question that they have, there's a follow-up question I have, and I have to get more information.
Yeah.
And so it's best to allow me and to allow that person to reserve the time needed to get all the facts to their case to be able to answer their question. So on my website, there is a link at the bottom where you can book a consultation directly online, or you can call my office during normal business hours, and my receptionist can book it through my receptionist. But that's kind of the starting place, because sometimes it is just a question. Other times it is, you know what, we can represent you, and this is how we go through with the process. So once let's say I quote them the price and they decide to hire us, we send a retainer agreement, they pay the fee, and then we start. Our goal is to submit that application or petition, or to figure out the deadlines and to meet that, and to be in contact with them on a regular basis so that they feel just calm, because this is a stressful process.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to know like what's going on in each stage. Even after the petition or application is sent, there's still the follow-up process to know like what next.
Yeah.
And I know immigration processes can take a long time, right? Like you've mentioned, they can take years, potentially even a decade or even more, depending on how complex the case is. But what would you say is your typical timeline from going from let's say like an illegal status or a questionable, or like how you put it, a removable status, to a point where you can get some peace of mind, getting to a point where like you're now in the system and you can breathe?
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on the application. So if you're in removal proceedings, if you're in court, that process is probably going to take a lot longer than submitting a petition for a spouse, for example. So in court, I mean, sometimes you can have a master hearing, and they might book your actual individual hearing, your merits hearing, 2 years out, 3 years out. And this is once you're in court. Before that, you might have, for example, an asylum interview. Some of those interviews are taking, I mean, I've had some where we get the interview within a few months. And then there are other cases where people have been waiting for a very, very long time, 5 years, 6 years. It really just varies.
Wow.
And for somebody that is not on a removal space, but maybe they've overstayed their visa or some sort of situation like that, what does that kind of process look like?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, one of the most common questions I get is, how long is it going to take? And the best place that I tell my clients to go is to USCIS processing times. So they have this tool where you say it's a 485 application, and then you say where you're located, because each office is taking different amounts of time. And then it'll tell you about 80% of the cases are being processed within 2 years or whatever. So they give you a good idea of how long you should expect. But each location is very different. And my clients are all over the US and all over the world.
Yeah. That's a great resource. So what was that again?
I like to just Google USCIS processing times. And it's one of the first ones that comes up. And it's pretty much a tool that basically first you put in the form that you put in, and then you put in the specific details within the form, and then you'll put in the location, and it gives you an idea of about how long it's taking.
Wow.
That's a great resource.
It's great, but it's not, I mean, it says 80% of the cases are being processed in this time. So it's not perfect. It's just giving you an idea of like, it should be handled in this amount of time. And if it's not, then I should be reaching out. It'll even say, I've been waiting since this date. This is when you can reach out to USCIS.
Right. Wow.
Okay. So that's one place where you do not want to be outstanding.
You don't. And honestly, there are people who are. So, I mean, just because you're within, it could be past that time frame. It just gives you an idea. It's just a starting place.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so if somebody wants to get a hold of you, contact you, and just kind of get the ball rolling, what should they do? Where should they go?
The best. I love how you put that up, Hardy.
Thank you.
MarronGlaw.com. My website, it's the best starting place to
It
go
is.
to. It has my office number. It has the booking link. It also has all the information on the services that we have, free information on content that we have posted. But my website is the best starting place. But it also, you can call my office and we can book you for a consultation. We'd love to speak with you or anyone you know who has immigration questions.
Yeah.
And if we put ourselves in the shoe of your clients, I'd love to know, like, what is your ideal client?
My ideal client has a marrigration or asylum case.
And
And
by
I
the,
say
and
that
by the
because,
way,
yeah,
yeah,
we do take other cases.
that's
but
trademark, by the way.
yeah, marrigrate trademark. And did I say that? I don't know if I said that. I'm not sure.
No, I knew it was going to be Marrigration because you wouldn't trademark something unless
Yeah,
it was a
I
big
mean,
popular part of your service, right?
yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
awesome.
And I brought,
idea.
did I bring up that it was trademark though? I don't know if I
Yeah,
did.
you said it
Okay,
like 30
okay.
times today. That's why I said it again.
Okay.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
but I mean, marrigration is so vast. But someone, for example, who is adjusting their spouse's status while they're still here, because some people think that they're bringing a spouse, but it can also be relevant for someone who marries someone in the U.S., whether they've entered illegally or if they entered legally and now they're trying to adjust. So there's the adjustment process or the I-130, potentially a 601A if they qualify. Whereas, just to give you an example, let's say someone entered in the past illegally. They've married a U.S. citizen. First, we do the petition for an alien relative where they explain the marriage, and then they may be eligible for a waiver, where let's say they entered through their Mexican, and so the 601A is saying that it would be an extreme hardship on my U.S. citizen spouse if I was returned to Mexico. So the processing, once it's approved, they're going to be dealing with the consulate in their country.
Gotcha.
So it's approved. They go to their country and do consulate processing so that they're coming in legally.
Okay.
Yep. But yeah, marrigration or asylum.
Asylum.
So if I were to use that word in your description on the when I post this on YouTube, do you have that with your symbol already included with it so that I can post that?
Yeah, and I'm allowing you to do that.
Okay,
I'm allowing you to. You can
that's
post
fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I like to already have it with so
Yeah.
that people when they see it they know that it's trademark. Okay.
Yeah, I usually have marrigration with a trademark, but I also have a logo for that. It's essentially what I call it is marrigration with Marron.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure I'm being proper in the description because I love that. That's
You
great.
can also
Did you think of that yourself? Did you come up?
did,
How did
yes.
you come up with that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that it was also the play on my name because my name is
Yeah.
Marr.
It
So
makes sense.
marrigration, crimigration is something you hear a lot with immigration. And that's more criminal based and immigration. But I realize I focus a lot on marriage based immigration, marrigration
Yeah.
with Marron. So yeah,
That's
I was excited.
brilliant.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And Herdy, you just need to hit Command R, or if you're an APC, Alt R.
Yeah, I could put the symbol myself, but if she's already got it with TM and got it, I would prefer her just to send me her original. But yes, I could
Yeah, I
do that.
will.
So, listen, thank you.
Thank
This
you.
this has been really enlightening because I think we know these terms, we hear these terms, we hear the different policies, we understand that there's real laws, and I think people don't I really do think, and I'm pretty conservative in how I feel about things, right? But at the same time, there's real laws and you follow them and you work within the guidelines that are presented, whether that's through policy or through law, and work like you're supposed to, just like any good attorney would for any modality type of thing they're in, right? They're going to work the law as to the best extent they can to help their client. And you couldn't have picked a better field, by the way.
Thank you.
I mean, I think you're going to be busy for a very long time. So
Thank you. And honestly, it's an honor to represent my clients. So if
Yes.
you or someone you know is listening and you know someone who might have immigration issues, I highly recommend booking a consultation at
Yep.
marronglaw.com. There's a booking link directly at the bottom, but we'd love to speak with you. Again, Marrigration Asylum, and our goal is to stabilize families.
Yeah. And I'll expect an email from you. Thank you for being on. Jordan, you know what I love about this is that we get such a diverse group of businesses, you know, from service companies to attorneys to, I mean, immigration. You know, this is why we do this. We want our citizens and people in Mansfield and surrounding area to get a feel for, you know, that we're open to talking. We want to talk to any of our real legitimate businesses. This has just been awesome. Thank you for your expertise. And let's see, painting, a book, which we'll put a link to, a foreclosure attorney for 1 year in Florida. Okay. Writing poems in her book. Right. And painting.
Yeah. But honestly, my greatest
and children and married and
mom and wife.
mom and place. So
my
it's
4
awesome.
kids. That's my greatest blessing, my greatest achievement.
Or that's like pro level, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome. Guys, and ladies, we are on every Thursday from 2 to 3 o'clock interviewing businesses in the local area. And so, you know, come join us next Thursday. Next week is Russ Arnold. Russ Arnold, they own the Children's Academy right here in Mansfield, Texas, and a couple other businesses. Jerry Poe, who's has promotional company, but we're going to talk to Russ. He wants to be on 3 times and talk about his 3 different businesses. So we're going to start with one next week. So we want to thank everybody for being part of the Mansfield Buzz. We'll be back next Thursday. So we'll see you guys next week. And thanks for joining us. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Sit tight.